She wrapped her only coat around a stranger in the rain. She had $73 in her bank account. He had 73 million. But that's not the part that changed everything. The next morning, a man in a $3,000 suit knocked on her door. "My father told me what you did." What he said next, I still can't believe it. But I need to tell you something before we start. I created this channel because I believe we need more of these stories right now. Real moments. Real people. The kind of thing that reminds you why kindness still matters, even when the world makes you wonder. If that's something you need more of in your day, you're welcome here. That's what the subscribe button is for, just so these stories can find you when you need them most. No pressure, just an invitation. All right, let me tell you what really happened that night. Maya Thompson wasn't trying to save anyone the night everything changed. She was just trying to survive. And if you've ever been a single mother working minimum wage, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not dramatic. You don't collapse crying about it. You just wake up tired, go to bed more tired, and spend every moment in between doing mental math about what you can and can't afford, including kindness. It was a Tuesday evening in late October. The kind of rain that doesn't just fall, it attacks, coming down in sheets, so thick you can barely see 5 feet ahead. Maya was walking home from the grocery store with her 6-year-old daughter Lily, those cheap plastic bags cutting into her wrists, her shoulders aching. Lily's shoes had holes in them. Maya had noticed 3 weeks ago. She'd been meaning to replace them, but every time she scraped together an extra $20, something else came up. The electric bill, Lily's inhaler prescription, a late fee because she'd paid rent 4 days after it was due. You know that kind of tired? Not sleepy tired. Soul tired. The kind where you're just trying to make it to tomorrow, because tomorrow has to be better than today. That was Maya, every single day. So when she saw the old man under the streetlight, she did what everyone else walking past him did. She kept moving. I need you to understand something. Maya wasn't cold-hearted. She just didn't have anything left to give. Her tank was empty. Her reserves were gone. She was running on fumes and hope and the desperate prayer that somehow, someway, she'd make it through another month. But then something happened. The old man looked up, and in that split second, Maya saw something in his eyes that stopped her dead in her tracks. That specific kind of invisible that happens when the world has decided you don't matter anymore. She knew that feeling, lived it every single day. The way her manager at the diner looked through her like she was furniture. The way other mothers at Lily's school took one look at her clearance rack clothes and tired face and found someone else to talk to. The way she started to feel like maybe she actually was disappearing. Like maybe if she vanished entirely, it would take people 3 days to notice. This old man was disappearing too, right there under that street light in the pouring rain, shaking so hard his whole body looked like it might come apart. Have you ever had one of those moments? Where you know you can't afford to care, but something in you breaks anyway. Maya stopped. She didn't think about it. Didn't make a pros and cons list. Her hands just moved. She pulled off her jacket, the only coat she owned, the one she'd gotten at Goodwill 2 years ago, and draped it over his soaking shoulders. He flinched. Actually flinched. Like he'd forgotten what gentle hands felt like. "Come on," she said quietly. "Let me help you." Lily's little hand tightened in hers. Her daughter was looking up at her with those wide, confused eyes, probably wondering why Mommy was giving their stuff away again, why they always had to be the ones helping when nobody ever helped them. Maya didn't have a good answer for that. She just knew that if she walked past this man, she'd see his face every time she closed her eyes. And she already had enough ghosts. His arm was so fragile it scared her, like holding a bird with broken wings. And she was soaking wet now, rain plastering her hair to her face, her thin shirt clinging to her skin, but she just kept walking. 6 blocks through that storm. Didn't ask his name. Didn't ask what happened. Just walked beside him whispering that it was okay, that he was going to be all right, even though she had no idea if that was true. When they finally got to a bus shelter with an overhang, the old man sat down heavily. His whole body was shaking, but not just from the cold, from something deeper, like he'd been holding himself together for so long and suddenly didn't have to anymore. Thank you, he whispered. His voice was so quiet she almost didn't hear it over the rain drumming on a shelter roof. Maya squeezed his shoulder. You're going to be okay. He looked at her like he wanted to believe that, but had forgotten how. She stayed until the rain let up enough to see the street clearly, until his breathing steadied, until some color came back to his face. And then, because her own daughter was shivering beside her, Maya took Lily's hand and walked back into the drizzle. No names, no numbers, no thank yous beyond that first whisper. Just two strangers who'd reminded each other that kindness still existed somewhere in the world. Maya went home to her tiny apartment, the one with the leaky faucet the landlord wouldn't fix and the heating that only worked in 2 rooms. She gave Lily a warm bath, made spaghetti for the 3rd night in a row because that's what was left in the cabinet, and put her daughter to bed with a kiss on her forehead. Then she sat alone in the dark of her living room, so tired her bones ached, and wondered if she'd made a stupid choice. That coat was the only warm one she had. Winter was coming. What if she got sick and couldn't work? What if Lily got sick and she couldn't afford the copay? What if kindness was a luxury she just couldn't afford anymore? She had no idea her entire life was about to change. The next morning, someone knocked on her door. Maya shuffled over in her worn slippers, expecting maybe a package or a neighbor needing to borrow something. She definitely wasn't expecting what she found. A man, mid-30s, expensive charcoal coat that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent. Dark hair, perfectly styled. The kind of posture that came from private schools and never having to worry about anything. When men like that show up in neighborhoods like hers, it's never good news. Maya Thompson, his voice was measured, controlled, like every word cost money. Her stomach dropped. Who's asking? My name is Daniel Bryant. He paused. My father told me about you. Your father? The man you helped last night. In the rain. The air went completely still. Maya's hand tightened on the doorframe. Is he okay? Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, like he hadn't expected that to be her first question. He's fine. He's more than fine, actually. Good. Maya started to close the door. I'm glad he's safe. Wait. His hand came up, not touching the door, just hovering. Please, can I come in? I need to explain something. Every instinct Maya had screamed this was weird, potentially dangerous. Men who looked like that didn't just show up at your door with good intentions. They showed up with lawsuits, with accusations, with problems. But something in his face looked so raw and human that she found herself stepping aside. This is the part that still gives me chills. So picture this. This man who clearly didn't belong in her world, sitting at her yard sale kitchen table. Maya made tea with shaking hands because what else do you do when your life is about to change and you have no idea how? She didn't know whether to be terrified or hopeful. Have you ever been in that space? Where something could either save you or break you and you're just frozen. Daniel wrapped his hands around the chipped mug she'd given him. He stared at it for a long moment before he spoke. My father's name is Walter Bryant, he began. He built a real estate empire from nothing. $73 million. He looked up at her. And last night, he was alone in the rain because of me. Maya didn't say anything. I was so focused on running his company, on maintaining the legacy, on keeping everything perfect, that I stopped seeing him. His jaw tightened. I convinced myself he was fine, that he had everything he needed. A beautiful house, the best doctors, full-time staff. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. But money doesn't keep you warm at night. It doesn't hold your hand when you're scared. It doesn't look at you like you're still a person instead of a problem to manage. Maya knew that feeling. Not the money part, the invisible part, the forgotten part. He's been wandering, Daniel continued. Getting lost. The doctors say it's early-stage dementia, but honestly, he shook his head. I think he was just looking for someone who still saw him as human. Wait until you hear what he said next. Daniel looked directly at Maya. You stopped. You cared. You gave him something I've been too blind and selfish to give him in years. He pulled an envelope from his coat pocket and slid it across the table. I want to hire you. What? Not as a nurse. Not as staff. He leaned forward. just as someone who sees him, someone who talks to him like he's still alive, instead of some fading memory we're all just waiting to lose. I'm not qualified, Maya said quickly. Her pride flared up hot and defensive. I don't have training. I'm just a waitress. I can't. You're exactly what he needs. Please. And this is where Maya almost walked away from everything. Because here's what nobody tells you about being poor. It's not just about lacking money. It's about lacking control, lacking choices, lacking the ability to say no when you desperately want to because you can't afford to. Maya had $73 in her checking account. Her landlord had left another note about late rent. Lily needed new shoes, new clothes, probably a dentist appointment Maya had been putting off for 6 months. But accepting this, it felt like charity, like pity, like admitting she was too weak to survive on her own. I need time to think, she said. Daniel nodded slowly. He pulled out a business card and set it beside the envelope. Take all the time you need. But Maya, his voice cracked slightly. Please don't let him forget that someone cared. Then he left, and Maya sat alone in her kitchen, staring at an embossed business card and a sealed envelope, wondering what the hell just happened. She didn't open the envelope for 2 days. Not because she wasn't curious, because she was terrified. Terrified that whatever was inside would either change nothing or change everything. And she didn't know which scared her more. On the 3rd day, Lily asked a question that broke her. Mama, why are you sad? Maya looked at her daughter, this beautiful, bright 6-year-old who deserved so much more than holes in her shoes and spaghetti 3 nights in a row, and a mother who was too proud to accept help. She opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten in shaky script. Dear Angel in the Rain, you didn't ask my name. You didn't ask what I was worth. You just saw me. In my 82 years, that simple act has become the rarest gift of all. My son wants to pay you. He thinks everything can be solved with money because that's what I taught him. But I know better now. I don't want to hire you. I want to know you, if you're willing to know me. Sincerely, Walter Bryant. Maya read it 3 times. Then she picked up the phone. __________________________________________________________________________ 3 days later, Maya stood outside an estate that looked like it belonged in a movie. Columns, manicure gardens, a driveway longer than her entire street. Lily squeezed her hand. Mama, is this real? I think so, baby. Daniel opened the door before they could knock. When he saw them, his whole face softened. You came. I'm still not sure this is a good idea. That makes 2 of us, Daniel said. But he smiled. Come. The inside of the house was overwhelming. High ceilings, actual artwork on the walls, the kind of silence that came from too much space and not enough life. And then, from somewhere deeper in the house, a voice called out. Is that her? Walter came around the corner. He looked older than Maya remembered, frilier, but when he saw her, his entire face transformed into pure joy. You, he said, pointing with a shaking finger. My angel from the rain. Maya's cheeks flushed. I'm no angel, Mr. Bryant. Walter. Call me Walter. He grinned, and suddenly he didn't look fragile at all. And you are an angel. They don't need wings. They just need to show up. Lily peeked out from behind Maya's leg. Walter's eyes went soft. He slowly lowered himself down to her level. And who is this beautiful light? My daughter, Lily. Well, Lily, Walter said seriously, I think you and I are going to be great friends. Do you like drawing? Lily nodded shyly. Perfect, because I have about 1,000 colored pencils and nobody to use them with. Lily's face lit up. And just like that, something shifted in that massive, silent house. It felt warmer, like a home instead of a museum. Here's what you need to understand about that first afternoon. It wasn't magical. It wasn't perfect. It was awkward and careful and strange. Like 3 people learning to speak a language none of them quite knew yet. Maya read to Walter from an old book he'd loved as a child. Her voice was soft and steady. She stumbled over some of the old-fashioned words, but Walter didn't correct her. He just closed his eyes and smiled like he was traveling back to somewhere beautiful. Lily sat on the floor with a brand-new coloring book, holding up pictures every few minutes. Stick figures and suns and houses with crooked chimneys. Beautiful, Walter would say, clapping his weathered hands. Absolutely beautiful. Daniel watched from the kitchen doorway with his arms crossed. And if Maya had looked closely, she would have seen tears in his eyes, because he was watching his father come back to life. When Walter dozed off, Maya gently tucked a blanket around his shoulders and motioned for Lily to be quiet. They tiptoed toward the door. Daniel walked them out. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For today. It's just one day." "No." His voice was firm. "It's the first day. There's a difference." Maya didn't understand what he meant. Not yet, but she would. Days turned into weeks. Maya started coming every afternoon, sometimes with Lily, sometimes alone when Lily was at school. She'd read to Walter, or they'd sit in the garden, where he'd tell stories about building his company from nothing, about sleeping in his car, about the first property he ever bought with money he'd saved for 2 years. "People think wealth makes you happy," Walter said one afternoon. "It doesn't. It just makes you comfortable while you figure out what actually matters." "What actually matters?" Maya asked. Walter looked at her with those clear, sharp eyes. "Being seen, being known, having someone care whether you wake up tomorrow." Maya's throat tightened. "You gave me that," Walter said softly. "In the rain. You didn't see a rich man or a poor man. You just saw someone who needed help. Do you know how rare that is? Have you ever had someone see you like that? Really see you, not what you have or don't have, just you?" Maya started to understand something. She wasn't just helping Walter. He was helping her remember what it felt like to matter. But nothing beautiful lasts without being tested. This is the part one need you to hear. About 6 weeks in, Daniel pulled Maya aside after Walter had gone to bed. His face was tight, stressed. "We need to talk." Maya's stomach dropped. "Is something wrong? My business partner wants to meet you." "Why?" Daniel hesitated. "Because he thinks you're taking advantage of my father." There it was. The thing Maya had been waiting for. The other shoe dropping. "He thinks I'm after Walter's money. He thinks I'm being naive. He wanted to do a background check. Put you on a formal contract. Protect the estate. For me." Yes. The air in that beautiful house suddenly felt very thin. Maya stood up. "I should go." "Wait. No." Her voice was sharp now. Defensive. "I knew this was too good to be true. I knew people like me don't get to be part of worlds like this without someone thinking we're trying to steal something." "Maya, that's not what I—" "Tell Walter I'm sorry. Tell him I hope he finds what he's looking for." She made it all the way to the front door before Daniel said something that stopped her. "You're right." Maya turned around. His face was raw, unguarded. "You're right. This is exactly what happens. People like us, we're so busy protecting what we have that we forget what actually matters. We turn into these fortresses. We don't let anyone in because we're terrified they want something from us." He took a step closer. "But you didn't want anything. You just showed up. And that scared me more than anything because I don't know how to trust that. I don't know how to believe that someone could care without an agenda." Maya's eyes stung. "So yes," Daniel continued, "my business partner thinks you're running a con. And part of me, the part that's been burned and disappointed and taught to see the worst in people, wants to believe him. Because that would be easier. Easier than what? Easier than admitting I've been wrong about everything. That maybe kindness is real. That maybe you're exactly who you seem to be." His voice cracked. "That maybe I've spent so long protecting my father from the world that I forgot to just love him." The house was so quiet Maya could hear her own heartbeat. "I don't want a background check," Daniel said. "I don't want a contract. I want to trust you. I want to believe that good people still exist. Please don't leave." And this is where Maya had to make the hardest choice of her life. Because accepting this meant accepting that sometimes people surprise you. That sometimes trust is a risk worth taking. That maybe, just maybe, she deserved to be here. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll stay. Daniel's shoulders sagged with relief. And that night, something shifted between them. They weren't strangers anymore. They weren't employer and employee. They were two people trying to do the right thing in a world that made that very, very hard. 2 weeks after that conversation, something happened that broke Maya completely. Lily was playing near Walter's desk while Maya was in the kitchen making lunch. She was a curious kid, always exploring, always touching things. She found a small wooden box tucked in the back of a drawer. Inside was a bracelet, delicate and clearly ancient, clearly precious. Lily lifted it carefully, her little fingers tracing the tiny beads. She just wanted to see it better, just wanted to look at something beautiful. And then, snap, the thread broke. Beads scattered across the hardwood floor like tiny bombs going off. Lily froze. Her face went completely white. Mama! Maya rushed in from the kitchen and saw the beads everywhere and her daughter's terrified face and immediately understood. She dropped to her knees, trying desperately to scoop up the beads with shaking hands. I'm so sorry. Oh God, I'm so sorry. We'll fix it. I'll pay for it. Walter appeared in the doorway. Maya braced herself. This was it. The moment where he realized she didn't belong here. That people like her just broke things. That inviting her into his world had been a mistake. But Walter didn't yell. He didn't even frown. He just slowly lowered himself to the floor beside them. His old knees creaked. His movements were careful and deliberate. He looked at Lily, who was crying now, tears streaming down her little face. Do you know what that bracelet was? Walter asked gently. Lily shook her head, sobbing. It was a gift from my wife. She gave it to me 53 years ago. Walter's voice was soft and far away. Right before she died, she told me it was a reminder that love is fragile, that we have to hold it carefully, that even when it breaks, we can make something new. He picked up one of the scattered beads and placed it in Lily's tiny palm. You didn't break love, sweetheart, he said. You just gave us a chance to remake it. Together. Maya couldn't speak. Her throat had closed completely. Daniel appeared in the doorway. He'd heard everything. His eyes were wet. For the next hour, the four of them sat on that floor, threading beads onto new string. It wasn't the same bracelet, but it was something better. It was forgiveness. It was grace. It was the understanding that some broken things become more beautiful when you put them back together. When they finished, Lily held it out to Walter with trembling hands. For you. Walter slipped it onto his wrist. Perfect. And in that moment, sitting on the floor of that beautiful house, surrounded by scattered beads and second chances, Maya finally understood something. This wasn't charity. This wasn't pity. This was family. The kind you choose. The kind you build. The kind that sees you break something precious and says, let's make it new together. The weeks that followed felt like living in a dream Maya kept waiting to wake up from. She and Lily moved into the estate. Not into a guest room, into a real home. Walter insisted. Daniel agreed. And Maya, for the first time in her life, stopped fighting and just accepted. Lily started calling Walter Grandpa Walt. He pretended to be grumpy about it, but his eyes sparkled every single time. Walter's mind started to clear. The fog lifted more every day. The doctor said it was remarkable, but Maya knew the truth. People don't heal from medicine alone. They heal from being seen, from matching, from having a reason to stay present. And Daniel became someone Maya never expected. He learned to cook alongside her, burned the pasta the first time, and laughed instead of getting frustrated. He played endless games of Candyland with Lily, letting her win without being obvious about it. He sat with his father in the garden and just listened to stories he'd heard 100 times before. He became a man he'd forgotten how to be. One evening, after Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, Daniel and Maya sat together on the back porch watching the sun set over the gardens. Can I ask you something? Daniel said. Maya turned to him, her heart suddenly racing for reasons she didn't want to examine. Sure. Why did you stop? That night in the rain. You didn't know him. You didn't know me. You had every reason to keep walking. Why did you help? Maya thought for a long moment. Because I know what it feels like to be invisible, she said slowly. To feel like the world has moved on without you, and you're just this ghost haunting your own life. She looked at him, and I couldn't let him feel that way. Not if I could help it. His eyes were bright. You're extraordinary. I'm not. I'm just someone who showed up. That's exactly what makes you extraordinary. And then, before either of them could overthink it, he reached for her hand. Maya didn't pull away. They sat there as the sky turned from gold to pink to purple, holding hands like two people who'd spent their whole lives being strong and were finally learning what it felt like to lean on someone else. 6 months after that rainy night that changed everything, Walter called a family meeting. Maya, Daniel, and Lily sat on the couch, confused and slightly nervous. Walter stood in front of them with his hands clasped behind his back, looking uncharacteristically serious. The remade bracelet gleamed on his wrist. I have something to say, he began, and I need you to hear me out. Maya's heart pounded. This house has been empty for too long, Walter continued. Not because it lacks furniture or warmth, but because it lacked life. It lacked laughter. It lacked you. He looked directly at Maya. You brought my son back to me. You brought joy back into these walls. You reminded me what it feels like to matter. His voice thickened. You gave me a reason to stay. Tears started streaming down Maya's face. And so, I need to ask you something. Walter glanced at Daniel, who nodded, his own eyes wet. Will you stay? Not as a guest, not as help, but as family, permanently. Maya's breath caught. Walter, I know it's sudden, he said quickly. I know it's a lot, but this house, this life, it's better with you in it. Both of you. Maya looked at Daniel. He was openly crying now, still holding her hand, nodding like his life depended on her answer. She looked at Lily, who was staring up at her with those wide, hopeful eyes. Can we stay, Mama? Please. Maya's voice broke. Yes. Yes, we can stay. Walter's face lit up like the sun breaking through storm clouds. Daniel pulled Maya into his arms, and Lily squealed, wrapping herself around both of them. And in that moment, everything that had been broken in Maya's life clicked into place. Not because of money, not because of the house, but because of the people inside it. Because sometimes family isn't the one you're born into. It's the one you find in the rain. Daniel proposed on a rainy evening exactly 1 year after Maya had stopped for his father. They were in the garden. Lily was with Walter inside, probably drawing. The rain was soft this time, gentle instead of attacking. Daniel got down on one knee in the wet grass, holding a ring that had belonged to his mother. Maya Thompson, he said, his voice shaking. You saved my father's life. You saved mine too. Will you let me spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel invisible again? She said yes before he even finished the question. Not because of what he had, but because of who he'd become. Because somewhere between the rain and the laughter and the broken bracelets and the quiet evenings, they'd fallen in love. The kind of love that's built on seeing each other, on showing up, on choosing each other every single day. They got married in the garden 6 months later. Small ceremony, just family. Lily was the flower girl. Walter walked Maya down the aisle, crying the whole way. Thank you, he whispered as he placed her hand in Daniel's. For stopping. Thank you, Maya whispered back. For letting me stay. Underscore. 2 years after that night in the rain, Maya stood on the back porch watching Lily chase butterflies in the garden. She was 8 now, confident and bright, and so loved it radiated from her. Walter sat in his favorite chair with his sketchbook, drawing. Still sharp, still present, still here. Daniel wrapped his arms around Maya from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. His wedding ring caught the sunlight. Do you ever think about that night? He asked. The rain. Maya smiled. Every single day. Do you regret stopping? Not for 1 second. Daniel kissed her temple. You know what I think? I think you were meant to find him. I think the universe put you exactly where you needed to be. Maya turned in his arms. Or maybe I was just paying attention. Maybe that's all kindness is. Paying attention when everyone else is looking away. Either way, Daniel said softly, I am grateful. Every day I'm grateful. Me too. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. Kindness doesn't cost anything, but can change everything. One rainy night, one old man, one decision to stop when everyone else kept walking. That's all it took. And from that single moment, an entire life was reborn. Not just Walter's, not just Daniel's, but Maya's too. Because sometimes the person you save ends up saving you right back. You know what gets me about Maya's story? She wasn't special. She didn't have money or connections or any kind of safety net. She was just exhausted and broke and trying to survive. But she stopped. And that one choice changed 4 lives forever. Which makes me wonder, what choice are you standing in front of right now? What small moment might actually be everything? I tell these stories because I believe we need them. Not as entertainment, but as reminders. Reminders that we're more powerful than we think. That single decisions can rewrite entire lives. That kindness still matters, even when the world tries to convince us it doesn't. If you felt something watching this, if some part of Maya's story touched you, then you're exactly the person I want here. This channel is for people who still believe in second chances, who still believe people can surprise you, who still believe one moment of compassion can change everything. If that's you, you're welcome here. That's what subscribe means, just that you want more of these stories in your life. And I promise, I'll keep telling them. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one.